Well, although I don't necessarily believe in religion, I guess it's all a matter of what you think. Like, if you die, depending on, like, an equal things out. If you do something that's bad, think that it's bad, then it's bad to you. But if you think it's good, then it's a good thing. Then
If understanding the religion and abiding by it brings you true happiness, and that to me is real. That's truth.
It's only true if you believe it.
That's
So
it.
whatever you believe in, it's true for you.
I agree.
There's no one answer.
I agree.
What would you do if you need heart bypass surgery? Would you check into the hospital and go to the maternity ward? I mean, after all, they're very good people there. They're caring, they're loving. Or would you go to the coronary care unit? I hope you're thinking that that's a rather stupid question. Of course, you would go to the coronary care unit. Taking care of your spiritual health is the same as taking care of your physical health. You need to be going to the right place to get the right cure, or you're going to die.
Religion, for the most part, and spirituality are essentially one and the same, and that in the end, it doesn't matter what you believe in, just so long as you believe in something.
How do you tell which religion is true?
Whatever you believe in your heart. I mean, everybody's got different beliefs, and just as I also say, as long as it's not a judgmental religion, too. There's a lot of judgmental religions that are biased to theirs and only theirs. Can't be biased because everybody will believe what they want to believe. So.
Here's something that people quite frequently say. And we'll use the same example that we just did of having a heart attack. And let's say you've had a heart attack, you're checking into the hospital, you're down at the admissions desk, and you say, where I want to go is to the maternity ward. They're good, loving people there. I really like the way the rooms are decorated. That's a good place for me to be. Now, the person behind the desk is going to say, no, we're going to send you up to coronary care. But you say, well, if you are having a heart attack, sure, that would be good for you. But what would be good for me is to go to the maternity ward. Where are they going to send that person? They're going to send them to the psychiatric ward. And that's the same thing people say when we're talking about spiritual health. They say, well, Jesus Christ may be right for you, may be true for you, but what's true for me is, fill in the blank with whatever, and that's what's good and right for me. What's true for you is true for you, and what's true for me is true for me, and don't you go pushing your coronary care unit on me. Well, if we don't go to the right place when we need care, we're going to die. And that's what this video is all about, getting to the right place. What we are talking about is what happens after you die. I've met many people who don't really want to think about this. They say, well, whatever you believe is fine for you, but what I believe is that I will go to heaven because basically I'm a good person. And that's what's going to happen. You believe what you want, and I'll believe what I want. What this is saying, in effect, is that all roads lead to God. No matter what you believe, if it's true for you, it'll get you there. And that totally misses the point of what is true. What is the truth? What you are doing, in effect, is putting your head in the sand and ignoring reality. It's a very stupid thing to do because, as a result, you'll never see the truth. And the truth is that an 18-wheeler is heading down the road right towards you. You've got to pull your head out of the sand and take a look at reality and find the truth. And that's why we're going to climb Diablo Mountain. We're going to take a look at 5 of the world's great religions: Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, secular humanism, and Christianity. The majority of people now say that whichever of these religions you believe in, well, that's the right one for you. They all lead to God, so just go with the religion that's best for you. It's the concept of all paths leading to God, or all paths lead to the top of the mountain. Well, we're going to climb the mountain, and we're going to find out if this is true or not. Well, today we have come to the great divide in the Rocky Mountains, and we're going to climb Diablo Mountain and find out if this saying is true. Do all paths lead to the top of the mountain? So let's get started and head up the mountain. As we take a look at the 5 major religions, you'll notice that all religions have 2 characteristics in common, and all human-created religions have 2 other characteristics in common. These 2 characteristics of human-created religions make it fairly easy to spot false religions and tell the difference between a religion that truly comes from God and one that man has created. What do all religions have in common? They all are exclusive, and they all have people who claim to be a part of that religion, but who don't follow the doctrines taught by that religion. For example, although anyone can identify themselves with any religion, anyone can call themselves a Buddhist or a Christian and believe that Allah, the Islamic God, is the one true God. So they don't believe what the religion teaches, although they claim to be a member of that religion. You can do that. Everyone can have their own made-up religion, but it's just a made-up religion. It may make someone feel good, but it's not true. And although each major religion has many divisions, sects, or denominations, each has at least one defining doctrine that applies solely to that religion, and it makes that religion exclusive of all other religions. That is the characteristic we'll be using to define each religion. For example, let's go to India and take a look at Hinduism. We've come to Machilipatnam in India to learn a little bit about Hinduism. Now, there's all different kinds of Hinduisms, from the Brahmins to the folk Hinduism. About 80 to 85% of Indians are Hindus. The one thing that is common among all forms of Hinduism is that of the concept of karma and reincarnation, which means if you live your life in the right manner, in the life that you've been born into, that you will be reincarnated into a higher level. Buddhists also believe in reincarnation and karma. What makes Hinduism unique is that as a Hindu, you must live a good life within the caste you've been born into. If you do what you're supposed to do within your caste, in your next life you can be born into a higher caste, or even become a god yourself. This shows us the first characteristic of a false religion, that it is through our own efforts that we cause either something good or something bad to happen to us after we die. In other words, we are in charge of what happens to us after we die. That brings us to the second characteristic of a false religion. It elevates people into a position above God. It puts people in a position of dictating to God what God must do. For example, if I do certain things here on earth, live as a good person within my caste, then God is obligated to me to do certain things after I die, such as reincarnate me into a higher caste. But God is sovereign. He created us. We're not in charge. He is. Another characteristic of some false religions is that their God, or in the case of Hindus, their gods, are not perfect. Our human minds cannot imagine a perfect God, so when we create a God, that God tends to have some of our imperfections. Hindu gods may fight or bicker among themselves, or they may trick or lie to humans. For some Hindus, performing rituals is a way to get a god or gods to pay attention and do what the Hindu wants them to do. Once again, putting them in a position above their gods. So, what do you think will happen to you after you die?
Live your life right, and you treat others well, and you do things that God wants you to do.
That'll get you to
You'll go to heaven.
And think that our spirit then resides in heaven if we have lived a life worthy of that.
And do you think you're going to heaven? Well, I guess I can say I hope so.
Okay, okay.
You know, I think we all probably think we are good people, you know.
Okay, and why?
Well, it's probably what we're working towards. You know, if you're a good person and believe in God and, you know, want to do what you're supposed to do, that's sort of a natural, end result.
I'm a good person is the most common answer people give when asked why they'll go to heaven. It's the same thing Hindus say. They'll come back into a better life because they've been a good person. But God has said that's not true. In Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 and 9, God specifically says there's nothing you can do to get yourself into heaven. It says, "For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and not of yourselves. It is a gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast." What is a gift? It's something that you get freely. You don't have to earn a gift. It's just given to you. What does it mean when it says so that no one can boast? That means that if you can say, "I did this, I'm a good person, and that's why I should go to heaven," God says, nope. Nothing you do will get you into heaven. I'll explain why this is true shortly. First, let's see what Buddhism is like.
Do you think that you're going to heaven?
Eventually,
And why?
because I'm a Buddhist. And yes, and
Do you mind if I ask you one more?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so why do you think you've been doing good things, or what?
Because I think that's the trick. It's not a matter of doing the right thing because it gets you into heaven. I think it's doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And I think if in enough lifetimes, eventually I'll get enlightened enough to not have to keep coming back and have to keep learning the lessons that people are here to do. So
Okay, thank you
there you
very
go.
much.
Notice that he starts by saying that he does not think you need to do right things in order to get into heaven, but you do right things because they are the right things to do. Many Buddhists have picked up on the fact that doing good works so you can get into heaven is a sign of a false religion, just as we've been talking about. But then notice what he says. If he lives through enough lifetimes, he will learn the lessons he needs to learn and not have to come back again. Buddhism is a religion of works, of things you must do. You must learn the right things and attain the proper mindset so that you may become a Buddha yourself. In classical Buddhism, you must learn the Four Noble Truths until you reach full enlightenment. Plus, the fourth noble truth is walking the Eightfold Noble Path. For a Buddhist, they must walk the Eightfold Noble Path. And when they have done that perfectly, they will reach nirvana, become a Buddha. And that's why for a Buddhist, when you die, you're reincarnated. You come back again, and hopefully each life you keep doing better and better on walking the Eightfold Noble Path. Those 8 points are, first is right understanding, and that is right understanding of the Four Noble Truths. The next one is right resolve, to renounce the pleasures of your body, change your lifestyle. Right speech, controlling what you say, and right actions, for example, do not murder. Next, you must have the right occupation. You must not have an occupation that harms anybody. Number 6 is right effort. You must work heroically to get all evil out of your life. The 7th one is right contemplation, so that you can become free in your desires and thoughts. And number 8 is right meditation, developing your mind so that you can focus on a single thought and develop your ability to concentrate, and through that you can develop inner peace. Following the Eightfold Noble Path requires you to do all of these things. That's a lot of work. It's all about personal effort, what you can do. Why can't our own efforts save us? Because perfection is required. Are you perfect? Now, God knows you better than you know yourself. He knows your every thought, and he says this about you. Romans 3:23, all have sinned. Romans 5:12, all sinned. The word all includes you. The problem of sin, the problem of our doing things that are wrong, is the problem all religions try to solve and fail, because they all tell us we must rely on ourselves. If Buddhism or Hinduism were true, it still wouldn't matter how many lives we had to try it over and over and over and over again. We would fail every time. We would never achieve the perfection because we're not perfect. We're broken. We do things that are wrong. And that's a problem. Now, Islam is very different. So let's take a look at Islam by reading what the Qur'an says. God has promised unto those who attain to faith and do good works, that theirs shall be forgiveness of sins and a mighty reward. That's Surah 5, verse 9. Surah 7, verse 42 says, But those who attain to faith and do righteous deeds, and we do not burden any human being with more than he is well able to bear, they are destined for paradise. And many other places it says the same thing. Islam is very plain and straightforward. You must do good works. You have one life to live, and at the end of that life, Allah will weigh your good deeds versus your bad deeds, and if your good deeds outweigh your bad deeds, then you will enter paradise when you die. Just like Hinduism and Buddhism, it's all about what you can do for yourself. As we continue to hike up Diablo Mountain, things are starting to get a little foggy. The next religion doesn't really have a name, but we're calling it Darwinism. It's about the belief in evolution. Whoa, wait a minute. You say that's science, not religion? Listen to what some leading scientists say. I have come to the conclusion that Darwinism is not a testable scientific theory, but a metaphysical research program. Dr. Karl Popper, a German-born philosopher of science, known as the greatest philosopher of science who has ever lived. The fact of evolution is the backbone of biology, and biology is thus in the peculiar position of being a science founded on an unproven theory. Is it then a science or faith? Belief in the theory of evolution is thus exactly parallel to belief in special creation. And that was written by Dr. L. Harrison Matthews in the introduction to the 1971 edition of Darwin's Origin of Species. The more one studies paleontology, the more certain one becomes that evolution is based on faith alone, exactly the same sort of faith which is necessary to have when one encounters the great mysteries of religion. Dr. L.T. Moore. Darwinism is a religion. And what people like about it is that it allows you to believe whatever you want to believe. It's the most self-centered religion of them all. It's all about you, and God, if God is even considered, is not really important. If you want to ignore God, Darwinism allows you to do that. What do you think happens after you die?
Well, you decay and go back to the earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's it.
What do you think happens after you die?
Absolutely nothing.
Everybody has their own beliefs. I don't believe in any of them. But not one religion outshines another as being closer to the truth, because I don't think any of them are true.
Yeah, I think they're all equally wrong. So, no, I don't believe in anything.
If you want to make up your own God, Darwinism allows you to do that too.
And the one that fits with how you want to live your life is the religion that's for you.
Do you think that you would be going to heaven?
Yes.
And why is that?
Because I believe everyone's going to go to heaven.
I don't mind anybody else having any other religion. I think there are many roads. One road might be more right than another, though. I don't think it's wrong to say that either. Me, I like to define myself as a Zen Christian. How do I know? Well, until I figure out something better, it's good enough. It's good philosophy to follow. Combine all the different elements.
It's all about you. And this brings us to the top of Diablo Mountain. I made it! This is the top of Diablo Mountain. There was only one path to the top, and it was the path of my own effort. But I don't like it here. It's cold! It's windy! Wet! There's no view! The top of Diablo Mountain's a miserable place to be. Get me down from here! But wait. We haven't talked about Christianity. That's because Christianity isn't like climbing a mountain. It's like going to the beach. Christianity has the truth. And the truth is that none of us can get to heaven on our own efforts. No matter how good you are, no matter how many good works you do, no matter how well you obey your church or religion, none of that brings you any closer to heaven or any closer to God. Now, we may climb the mountain because we love to climb the mountain, but really the analogy that works, that shows us how we get to heaven, is more like going to Hawaii. We're at the beach right now. Out there, that's the Pacific Ocean. And somewhere out there, about 2,500 miles away, is Hawaii. Now, let's suppose that you're here at the beach with me today, and you say, hey, I'd love to go to Hawaii. And I say, sure, I'd love to go with you too. Be glad to go to Hawaii. Tell you what, let's jump in the ocean and we'll both swim to Hawaii. What are you going to say to that? You're going to say, are you crazy? Do you want me to drown? Now, you're probably a better swimmer than I am. I'm not a very good swimmer. So if we both jumped into the ocean, you'll probably get a little bit further than I do. And if we get some of those Olympic swimmers here, they'll probably get a little bit further than both of us. But the truth is, we're all going to drown. None of us can get to Hawaii on our own efforts. And it's the same thing with heaven. None of us can get to heaven on our own efforts. Now, we went out on the street the other day and asked a lot of people whether they consider themselves to be a good person, because most of us think that we're good enough to get to heaven on our own. After all, never murdered anybody, and the person who lives over there, they're a much worse person than I am. I'm good enough to get to heaven. We hear that over and over again. So let me ask you, do you consider yourself to be a good person? Are you good enough to get to heaven? Let me ask you a few questions. For example, how many lies have you told in your whole lifetime? What do you call somebody who's told lies? For example, if I am lying to you right now, what would you call me? You'd call me a liar, right? Have you ever taken anything that doesn't belong to you? And what do you call somebody who's taken something that does not belong to them? Even if it's something small, downloaded music from the internet that's copyrighted, even if you've cut somebody off in traffic, you've stolen their spot from them. So what do you call somebody who has taken something that doesn't belong to them? You call them a thief. Have you always honored your mother and father, obeyed your mother and father? No? Well, we've looked at just 3 of the 10 commandments. If you've broken any one of those, you've broken God's laws. But let's look at what Jesus said. That's what people say. Let's take a look at what Jesus said. Turn to Matthew 5 in the Bible, and that's what's called the Sermon on the Mount. Let me ask you this question now. Have you ever looked at another person with lust? Jesus said in Matthew 5 that if you look at another person with lust, you have committed adultery in your heart, because Jesus looks at the heart. Have you ever been really angry at somebody? Have you ever hated somebody? Jesus, he tells us that if we've been really angry at somebody, that means we have committed murder in our heart, because God looks at our heart. Why is Jesus teaching us these things? Is he saying to us, I don't want you to lust, I don't want you to get angry anymore? Well, yes, but it's a lot more than that. What Jesus is doing is he's holding up a mirror for us to look into so we can see who we really are. That's what the 10 Commandments are. They're a mirror that reflect back and show us who we are. And they show us that we are not a good person. They show us that we have broken God's laws. They show us that we deserve the just penalty for breaking God's laws. And that penalty is hell. Yes, God loves you. And here's the good news. Someone has stepped in and paid the penalty you owe on your behalf so that you can go free. You've broken God's laws. You face the death penalty. But Jesus stepped in and died in your place. He did this because he loves you. He freely did it to give you the gift of life. If you believe this, if you trust that Jesus died to pay your penalty, then it's done. Your penalty is paid and you are free. But if you reject Jesus, he accepts that decision and you pay the penalty you owe yourself. What happens after you die? God tells us, "Insomuch as it is appointed for men to die once, and after this comes judgment." There is no reincarnation. When you die, you will face Jesus Christ for judgment, and you are guilty. That means you're facing the death penalty. Jesus has offered to step in and pay the penalty on your behalf. Do you accept this gift? Do you accept this gift from God?